Yeah, are we started?
We're starting.
Do I hit start?
No, well, let's hit start once I've done the intro. We'll see if it works out. The intro doesn't work out on its own too good.
Whoa, you going double take?
Who knows? Alright.
You're gonna fuck it up.
I want you to fucking just keep talking. I don't have to fucking ever you to shut up. Welcome to episode 1 of Big Rig Radio, co-hosting with Christopher Mahler and your host, Reece Howden. Chris, how's it going today?
Good, man. Yeah.
Excited to be on the first ever Big Rig Radio podcast?
First ever Big Rig Radio podcast. Here we go. Yeah, let's see what we can do. We'll have some fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. It should be a lot of fun. It's been a long time in the making. Been thinking about getting all this podcast stuff together for quite a few months now. It takes some time. It's not super simple, that's for sure. Collecting all the mics and recorders and all that stuff, but thanks to Carson, showed me what to get, and I think we're set up now.
Yeah, you're feeling like you're ready to go?
Oh yeah, we're ready to go.
All right. Well, where do you think we should start off?
Well, I think we should just start off kind of like, I guess, why and what the reason is for doing a podcast. Why would some, ski cross racers be interested in even doing one in the first place? And kind of before even a why, I guess you'd say, is who kind of pushed me this way. And, like this summer I went down, spent some time with Dale Brisby and the guys at Rodeo Time, and that was kind of my first experience in like an actual like podcast studio. And they had all the gear. I think we had like 4 cameras and stuff like that. Like it was a serious setup, and had a lot of fun. And then also talking with Dale there about social media and some stuff that I should be doing. And he was asking about podcasts. He's like, is there any podcasts in ski cross and really in skiing that you know of? And I know there are some, but when he asked me at the time, I'm like, I couldn't list a single one. And so that kind of got me thinking. And he also said, like, it's some people think they need like almost kind of permission to say, to be like, have to have like the legitimacy to be worthwhile listening to. And I don't know if I'm really there yet, but hopefully we can bring people on here who are there. But yeah, so he pushed me, and I just said, I think it's time to make that step. And it would be super cool to get ski cross out there on the air, because to my knowledge, I don't think there's any ski cross podcasts for sure.
Yeah, if I got asked the question, I don't think I would have an answer either. I don't think there are any.
Yeah, and then even with skiing, I know Erin Milzinski has been playing around with one, but I'm not sure how in-depth she went. But yeah, I'd like to, I think this could be great for the sport, could be great for our team, could be great for me. And hopefully it just stays positive and goes in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. I think, most of the time we're just goofing around, having fun, but I would say every once in a while people have some smart things to say. And yeah, each one of us lives a pretty cool life on the road, so sharing that with people, I think will be interesting, right? So what's like with when you went down to Texas and you did the podcast down there, like what made you like take that leap to actually, get this equipment and try it out for yourself? Like what did you actually really enjoy about going on a podcast?
Well, like big part was it was a lot of fun. Like I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, like we were having a good time. We were laughing, and then I thought like, when we're hanging out in between races or just traveling on the road and stuff, we're always talking and talking smack and stuff like that. And I'm like, might as well record it, because if there's a few things where we take it for granted what we do, but we live pretty wild lives when you really think about it. And when I go home, people will remind us of that. So, I think it's cool, and yeah. Also, when I was down there, it brought up things that you didn't really unpack in normal conversations,
Yeah.
which I thought was cool. Really getting into either problems or just things that you're passionate about, and really breaking it down. I thought that was interesting, and it was cool to see everybody else's different perspective. And typically with a podcast too, I found it was very open. Like, nobody's trying to particularly persuade someone else or like overtalks someone else. It's pretty open in sharing ideas and things like that. And I really enjoyed that, and I figured it was time to go that route.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I mean, we don't have a script with this one right now, so we're just kind of seeing where it goes. And I guess is that kind of the model you want to take like into this podcast as Big Rig Radio? Like, what if people were like, well, why should I listen to this? What do you think you would say to those people? Like, whether that be a genre or a style, or maybe other podcasts that you listen to that you kind of want to mimic in a certain way. Like, what would you say to those people if they're like, well, what's this podcast really about?
Yeah, like, I don't want to go too niche. Like, I don't want to just like commit to like just ski cross or anything like that, or even just skiing. Like, like lately I've been listening to Jocko a lot, the Jocko podcast. And one of the things he's super into is, lessons learned and discipline or bettering yourself and things like that. And I'm not anywhere near as disciplined as that man, but, I always want to try and better myself in skiing, better myself in life. And I think, and I really enjoyed listening to those type of podcasts. And so I'm interested in having, people on that have good life lessons that have been around a while. Like, it'd be super great to have like, Dell on here, Brady, Kevin, some of those guys that have been doing it for a long time. And then also just other, coaches, and then other people who've been around it have something to share. And I would just like to, tell some stories, learn some lessons, and pretty much, have a good time, and give people the opportunity to really kind of tell their story before, maybe not really before, but like just to tell their story when they're still here, and people can really appreciate what they've done. I know this is kind of a bit of a deep dive, but when you go to like a memorial service of someone, they really break down, how great of a person they were and all the amazing things that they did. But typically that doesn't happen when someone's still here. So, just an opportunity to do that and share some stories, and hopefully people will enjoy it, and we can branch out there. But yeah, that's kind of one reason.
See where we take it. Well, I guess that's a good transition. I mean, people are probably wondering at this point, who's Reece Howden? What's his story? And maybe that's the first story of the podcast. Why don't we dive into that? And maybe you just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you came from, where you grew up, how you got started in ski cross. I think that'd be interesting for people, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I'll start just as what I am right now, I guess. So I'm a member of the Canadian ski cross team, side with Kris Mahler, and been doing that for a few years. But I grew up in British Columbia, Chilliwack, BC, depending on how good you know the area, Caldas Lake. And I was skiing when I was 2 years old. I think skiing is probably my farthest back memory of what I can remember is skiing on Hemlock. My dad would go and put me on his shoulders and walk up the mountain, and then just let me go, and my mom would catch me at the bottom. And that was kind of how I started skiing, and grew up with a super active lifestyle and stuff like that. we didn't actually live on Cultus Lake, but we were kind of up against the mountain and stuff. So, and we had a big backyard, so it was always outside and stuff like that. Grew up with I have a younger brother, Jesse. He's 2 years younger than I am, so we were pretty inseparable growing up. I didn't, because we were kind of separated from Chilliwack and where we were going to school and stuff. I had friends and stuff like that, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time with my friends outside of school until I got older. So it was just, me and Jesse in the backyard, shooting pellet guns, doing all kinds of stuff. Parents kept us in lots of sports, so we were always busy. There was never a dull moment, whether it was, playing soccer, baseball, rugby, or skiing or snowmobiling. So we were always doing something.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to my upbringing as well. I mean, I didn't grow up in BC. I was in Ontario, but we lived on a big forest, and I got two younger brothers as well, and yeah, same thing, sports, and yeah, started skiing at 2, just like you, and it's just kind of progressed. But how did the skiing kind of take over in terms of the sport that you really wanted to pursue as opposed to some of those other ones?
Honestly, I think the biggest reason that skiing took over is because it was just it was so demanding. It like needed the time, and also at the time that I was kind of making a little bit more of a commitment or a little bit more of a switch to skiing. I was pretty heavily involved in baseball, and I was playing on the rep teams and stuff like that, and I was good, and I had a growth spurt, and in I guess it was probably grade 9.
Okay.
And what happened was my SI joints, my hips there, had huge spacing, and I couldn't swing a baseball bat, but I could ski. And so I couldn't jump, I could barely run, couldn't swing, and I was in pain all the time. But when I was skiing, I was okay. So that was kind of like, if it didn't hurt, it was a lot more fun.
Yeah, fair enough. It was a saving grace. That's interesting, man. I mean, I guess that's what's so cool about, like you say, the podcast like this is like, I've been traveling with you now for what, like probably upwards of 5 years on the circuit. I had no idea you were, high level baseball player. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool that we get to dive into this stuff at a deeper level, like you were saying. But I guess I can continue on that point. Was that progression that you saw like most of us in Alpine, or did you kind of take that directly into ski cross? Like, what was the transition there?
Yeah, so like I was a pretty strong Alpine skier when I was a kid, and then when I had that growth spurt, just kind of started to struggle, lost my coordination, and just kind of missed a bit of a key time when I was supposed to learn to really understand, GS skiing and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, I just didn't really pick it up. Wasn't very good at turning, but I was getting big. So I wasn't great at GS. My slalom was decent, but I was still struggling. And so what I did is once I finished U16, instead of going directly to FIS, I chose to hang around and do U18, where I would train with the Apex Ski Club, and then I went to a couple FIS races also with the Okanagan team, but I wasn't a full member of the Okanagan team, and so that kind of gave me, it was just a little bit of a less commitment. I was still finishing school, and it was just a little bit, basically just less of a commitment, because like FIS, for those people who don't know, once you turn 17, 16 years old, you basically stop going to school and you're racing and training all winter. Like a couple of guys on the team there, Gavin Rowell and Carson Cook, they all went through that progression in you too, Kris, I'm sure. But like Gavin, he moved from Prince George to the Okanagan just to be on the Okanagan FIS team, right? So it was like basically like a billet, and so it was a big step that I wasn't willing to take at the time. Maybe some of the reasons were because of that pain and things weren't really working out in the alpine side. But during that year, I got exposed to ski cross, and also kind of got exposed to speed races, Super G and some downhill. But and going into the ski cross, so what happened was there's a race at Sun Peaks, and the development team was there training, and they had a start and stuff. And I had always been interested in ski cross. I grew up racing BMX at a pretty high level when I was young too. Went to the Worlds when I was, I think, 10 years old in Victoria. And so I was very familiar with racing head-to-head.
Yeah.
And so when I hopped on and did ski cross, I was having a lot of fun. And I had always done well in head-to-head ski races, like dual slaloms and stuff like that. Like if there was a group of guys, I would be 10th, like constantly in like the zone races and stuff like that when it was timed. And then you put me in like a slalom, and I was competing for first every time.
Really?
Yeah, like I could beat the guys, and I had and I was not even touching them with timed. But when you put me in that head-to-head environment, I don't know, switch just kind of switched, and I just did whatever I had to do to be there. So when I did ski cross, like I said, it just came really natural. Met all the guys there met Sed. He was the coach at the time, and I remember it was Kevin Jury's first year on with the development team and stuff, and he came and raced the Alpine race there and absolutely crushed everybody.
I was there. I think I would have been there. I remember because we did have an Alpine race, but we hadn't skied like gates in so long, and it was just ridiculous. And I remember actually when one of my old Alpine coaches was there, and he was just laughing at me at the end of the day. So they are different sports, but they do go hand in hand, like you say, right? But sometimes the head to head, it just something clicks, and you can turn on a different set of instinctual powers, I guess, or something like that. It's that's what sets it apart, which is really cool. Where did you, so like now you're on ski cross, did you change your mindset? Because obviously when you started with the development team, not obviously, but potentially there was the opportunity to also ski at a pretty high level, spending a lot of time on the road. I knew I was at the time, like it was a pretty big commitment once I decided to go to ski cross that same year. Like, did you decide at that point, I'm gonna try and make a go of this, or like was it kind of progression over time, or what did that look like from a mindset?
Yeah, so my transfer to ski cross was extremely gradual. So like that first exposure there, after that I didn't really touch ski cross until the next year.
Yeah.
And the next year was 2016. And they had the Youth Olympic Games in Lillehammer, Norway. And again, I was struggling with Alpine. I was doing good in speed, but they were only taking athletes from GS and slalom results to go to the Youth Olympic Games, and I was not in the running. So I went and I tried out for ski cross, and I think I actually got contacted by Sed there, and he said, "You got to come and try out for the Youth Olympic Games team." And it was also at Sun Peaks, and so I went there. Skied really well, and was selected to go to the Youth Olympic Games, and that was huge. Got to go with one of my really good buddies, Ryan Moffat. He was on the Alpine team for Canada, and went there, had a blast. It was my first time to Europe, or first time to cross the pond, and it was wild, really wild experience. And like, now that I've been to the real Olympics and stuff like that, and I can compare, like, they put on a really good show. Like, it was really good, and I had a great time. And then when the race came along, I was skiing really well. I ended up winning, so I have a Youth Olympic Games gold medal. And ever since then, that was kind of my ticket to the national team. Ever since then, I've been a carded, funded athlete on the Canadian ski cross team. And that was huge. When you're 16 years old and you're starting to get paid for your sport, like, it's not much. Like, I think it was about $7,000, but it felt like I was an absolute rock star, right?
No, definitely. I remember the first time, that karting money came in. It's definitely a life-changing moment when you see a paycheck for something you've worked your entire life for, and up until that point it was basically just a hobby, right?
Yeah.
So definitely I remember that moment for sure. And it's you have a choice at that time too, right? It's kind of like, wow, now I got to put the work in. Now someone's expecting me to be there. So there comes some responsibility with it as well. But it's one heck of a ride. It's a lot of fun, right? Mm-hmm. So what were the, like you said, you've been now to the Youth Olympic Games. You have the gold medal there. You've been to the Olympic Games. Arguably like the biggest race on the world stage for any amateur athlete, and obviously the Youth Olympic Games for you was like quite highly touted. What were kind of like the highlighting points, or what made one better than the other for you?
Like the Youth Olympic Games was just like out of body experience. Like, I had never experienced a event of that magnitude at all. Like, it was wild, going from just being some kid that was going to high school, playing sports on the school team, and then racing, and then you go and they give you this full, Team Canada kit, and you show up there and it's you and 250 other athletes, and it makes it's like instant. You have a team of 250 other Canadian athletes, mm-hmm. that wants you to do well, and you them, and it was crazy. Just really just opened up the door to being a part of something bigger than yourself, and it was something that I never really knew was a experience that I didn't think really existed. I never grew up, really watching sports. We never had cable or TV when I was a kid, and never watched sports, never really watched the Olympics. I think we watched Vancouver a little bit, but just on TV. So I had, all the experiences in sports that I had were from my own, events and races and stuff like that. So this was just like out of this world. Like the opening ceremonies and everything, they had guys, parachuting in with skis, and it was just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And that was huge. And actually it was funny because that wasn't like the turning point for me for ski cross. Really? Like I was on the team there and stuff like that, but I was still competing in a lot of alpine races, and so what happened after that year, I moved to Calgary because we had a bit of a centralized program for the ski cross team, and I also wanted to go to school, or actually what I wanted to do is I went back to high school and got a couple more courses done. So I had already graduated, but though those of us that have been through skiing, we all know that we usually graduate by the skin of our teeth. Yeah. Right? So I went back and did Bio 12 and Chem 11 and Chem 12, And I just wanted to give myself the opportunity to kind of do anything. And ski cross was super supportive in schooling, especially when I was younger. And they still are now. Lots of the athletes have already almost done their schooling. You know, we have a bit of an older group now, but yeah, they were super supportive. They didn't push me to, you know, I was very fortunate because I never had expectations for results coming from me because I was so young. You know, like when I was on the team, I was 3 years younger than the next guy, and the next guy was 20. Right? So no expectations, and so they were just like, you know, go set yourself up, come to Calgary, you can train with us, you can train with the Alberta team too. So I would go to like speed races with the Alberta team, and so like I, you know, won a couple fist downhills and stuff like that, and got to the opportunity to forerun at the Lake Louise downhill a couple times. That was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Did pretty well in the NORAM there, and you know, I had potential in speed for sure. Just at the time they weren't really looking for it, but ski cross was very interested. So I finished up that schooling, came back to Calgary the next year and started post-secondary school at SAIT, which is basically like a tech school. And I went into geomatics engineering technology, which is land surveying. And reason for that is my dad is in that business, and I'd always kind of been interested, and I'd worked with him in the past and really enjoyed the work that he was doing. And it didn't close any doors, it only opened doors. Like I could have went into any engineering field right now, and I can work anywhere. You know, the people always, like every time that anything is getting built, it gets surveyed first. Mm-hmm. So potential is huge, and I always wanted to be able to have something to fall back on, whether I was injured or not, or finish skiing. I wanted to get my schooling done when I was young, so I wouldn't be doing it when I was older. Mm-hmm. And it worked out really well for me.
That's sweet, man. I mean, it's crazy. It's so cool to like hear different people's stories about how they kind of like came to be on this team, because now we kind of operate as, you know, as equals and as teammates, right? But it's so crazy to hear the different stories as people came up through the ranks and in different ways. You know, some very fast, others like you kind of took their time, developed their schooling, and yeah, it's so interesting to hear. And again, I think this podcast is gonna be really cool for that, to dive into kind of those stories. So I guess like to kind of transition, we've talked now about a lot about your past. What keeps you going? What are you looking for next? What's the goal down the road for you within ski cross?
Yeah, you know, that's definitely a question that I try to continually ask myself, you know, because it always seems to change, right? You know, right now, you know, in 2021, I had a lot of success. It was kind of my first year on the circuit there, and the stars all seemed to align for me. And you know, won a lot of World Cup races, and came back with the Crystal Globe. And I would really like to do that again a couple times.
There we go. That's the goal then, Crystal Globe, another one. All
sure.
Right.
But like, you know, at the end of the day, I love competing, whether it's ski cross or rugby or baseball or football. You know, like I could have fallen into any of those sports and been happy. You know, I love skiing for sure. I love it, but I'm a competitor. That's what I want to do. I love to push myself. I love to gauge myself against others, and I love to try and win. And you know, it's ski cross just happened to be something that I fell into, and I ended up being pretty good at it. So yeah, I just want to keep competing, keep racing, and just trying to win. You know, that you've felt that feeling, and it's a drug.
It's definitely addictive. It's definitely addictive. Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. That's yeah, but that crystal globe, for the listeners, maybe you don't know, it's arguably like the hardest trophy to win in skiing, right? In any kind of discipline, to be the best ranked, athlete at the end of the season. So to basically win or be the top ranked athlete the most consistently through each race is definitely not an easy task, specifically in ski cross when you have so many different factors potentially affecting the results, right? You can be maybe the best guy on the course in quali, but first round can come around and you might not make it through. So it's that was a pretty cool year to watch you do that, and definitely gave some inspiration to not only me but a lot of other guys. So you love competition. I'm gonna have to give you some, because that crystal globe is something I'm looking for too.
No, for sure. Everybody is.
Everyone's looking for it, right?
That's the greatest thing about ski cross is how competitive the field is. Like, it is. If you earn something like that, like, it did not come easy. It's there's a lot of guys out there that have the skills to win, and it's just a few little thing here, a little thing there, that really makes or breaks it. And and now also having a season like last year that was not what I was looking for, but was still I still had some good results and stuff like that, but it was a grind. Having a couple races where you make mistakes or things don't work out, even though that you have so much more potential and so much more in the tank, but sometimes you got to grind through those difficult periods, and it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder because not everything comes easy, and that's just it. It was a good reminder for me.
Yeah, it humbles you for sure. It takes you off that high horse pretty quick after something like that, for sure. But yeah, you said it. That's what I love about the sport. It's the ability to kind of create your own process to try and make that success a possibility, right? I think that's what's so cool, and that's what keeps me coming back day after day. It's like trying to be the best, optimizing everything you can in your power to show up every single day that you're asked to and win a race. Like, that's awesome. Just like you said, it's a very addictive drug, that winning feeling. So yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm excited for this season. We're sitting here just under 2 weeks out, maybe 2 weeks out from our first World Cup race. So it's I think everyone's looking good, and I'm excited to see what we can kind of lay down as a team and as individuals. So it's going to be good, but I don't want to get too long in the tooth here. I know we said we only wanted to keep it around 30 minutes. I have no idea what we're at because I didn't start that timer, but I feel like we had a good time. What do you think?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
I think it's a good time to wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Right on, man. Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm wishing you lots of success with this season and the podcast. I think it's going to be good. Hopefully I did a good enough job I can come back sometime.
No, you did great. Thanks for being a part of it. It's going to take more than me, so I'd love to have you back on. And I got a couple other mics too, so we'll get a few more guys on, and should be a lot of fun.
Perfect. We'll have one of our famous dinner time debates over the mic. So beauty, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.